Alright, hello everyone, it is Jess and welcome back to my channel. I have a little bit of time to myself tonight. I just got back from work, so excuse me for looking like a bit of a mess. But yeah, I have some time to myself tonight for a little while, so I thought I would film a little book review for you guys. So this is something very different for me because I haven't filmed a book review like this ever, I don't think. I'm so used to doing monthly wrap-ups and talking about all of the books I have read in those, but I have always found that I'm either thinking too much about how long the video is going to be, or just, trying to condense things down enough so that they're not too long. That I never really actually get to say everything that I want to say about a particular book. And I've never really understood why I haven't done book reviews, review videos like this before, because I really do enjoy watching them. I watch a few booktubers that do these kind of videos where they just review every book that they read like as soon as they've read it. And yeah, so I thought I would just have a go at it myself. I don't know how well this is gonna go. I do have my laptop here, so if you see me looking down at any point, it is because I'm just referring to my notes. This is probably like the only video so far that I have properly sat down and planned a little bit of a script for. So there we go. But we're going to get into it, and I'm going to talk about a book that I recently finished. I finished this book on Monday night, so it is the Wednesday now, and I finished this book on the Monday, and it was just... We're just going to get into it. So it is 13 Stories by Jonathan Sims. So if you follow me on Instagram, then you probably will have seen my short review of this book. This is a horror book, and I only just came across this book a couple of months ago. I was looking for books that would fit a certain prompt for the Spooktober readathon that was happening in October, and this book came up in my search, and I hadn't seen it anywhere before. I hadn't heard anyone talk about it before, so I was pretty intrigued by it, and it had a pretty interesting premise. So I placed a hold on it at my library, but the hold didn't come through in October. It came through about a week or so ago. So I've only just had the chance to sit down and read it. But either way, I was thoroughly impressed with this book. So this is a debut horror novel, and I do believe that Jonathan Sims has a podcast dedicated to all things horror, horror stories and things like that. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I will put the name of the podcast down here for you guys so you can check it out if you want. But after having read this book, I do want to go and check out that podcast because it sounds really cool, and I just really, really enjoyed this. So, what is 13 Stories all about? Well, this is a book that is set in an apartment block in Tower Hamlets in London. So this apartment block is called Banyan Court, and it is the creation of a billionaire entrepreneur called Tobias Fell. And at the start of the book, it is revealed that Tobias Fell has died very mysteriously, and then this book starts telling you the story of the events that led to his death. That's all I can really tell you without spoiling the book for you, because a lot of the plot... Yeah, if I just talk about the plot in any more depth than that, then I'm sure to reveal something that I probably shouldn't. So we're just going to leave it at that. But I will say that it is a twist on the haunted house trope. One of the things that I will say about this book that really struck me was the way it's written, and it kind of reminded me of a mashup between John Mars and Stephen King. So John Mars, because each chapter is written from a different character's point of view, which John Mars does really well in his thriller books. And it also reminded me of Stephen King just because of the prose and because of the way Sims delves into the minds and lives of the characters, and there's so much detail within the story, and it just kind of, yeah, it kind of reminded me of some of the Stephen King books that I have read. So sounds like a weird combination, but it actually kind of works really well. And one of the things that I noticed as well with this book is the double meaning within the title. So yes, 13 stories refers to the fact that Banyan Court has 13 floors, but this book also has 13 chapters, and these chapters are kind of like 13 short stories, I guess you could say, that intertwine into the main plot. And so I really liked that as well. I don't know if anyone else who's read it has noticed that, but I thought it was pretty cool. So there are several themes within this book, but one of the main themes that I picked up on was this theme about gentrification and how this particular building, Banyan Court, has been placed in one of the poorest parts of London. So Tower Hamlets is pretty well known for being one of the most destitute and impoverished parts of London. In fact, I was there not that long ago. I went to London back in November, and I walked around some of Tower Hamlets, some of the streets there, and you do kind of notice the gentrification that is happening there, and this stark contrast between the rundown houses and the rundown buildings and the shut down pubs that are there, and then there's also these big flashy office blocks and skyscrapers and things. And yeah, it is a very jarring contrast, but I do like that theme was kind of brought up in this book. It added a very unique dynamic to the story, because within Banyan Court there are like two sections to it, if you will. So there's like the first section, which is like at the front, which houses the wealthy people, billionaires and business execs and all of that. They live in the front part of the building, which looks really nice, and all of the apartments are really spacious and really flashy, But then at the back of Banyan Court, in the second half, is where the poorer members of society live. And these people are everyday people like you and me, people who are trying to make ends meet. They're working several jobs just to afford their rent. And the flats that they live in are pretty dingy, pretty run down, and nobody really seems to care about them. And it's that contrast that makes the story really interesting as well, especially when characters start to come together and interact, and you get to see the differences between the two as well. I really, really liked that aspect of it. And then this book also discusses how the rich exploit the poor. And Tobias Fell is the most prominent example of it. So he is a entrepreneur, a rich businessman. He's had many business ventures throughout his life, and a lot of those business ventures have always centered around exploitation of poorer people and having them do his work for him, and how his wealth is just built on that exploitation, which, is a great social commentary on how things happen in society today. There is a lot of that going on right now. And in this book as well, it does talk about how some of the companies that Tobias Fell has been involved with have caused the deaths of innocent people. It doesn't explicitly say that, but it's implied. So I really liked that as well, and it kind of adds some motivation to some of the characters and what they are trying to do, I guess, or just kind of like how they think and feel about this guy. So yeah, really liked those themes within this book, and I just feel like it's Jonathan Sims' way of saying fuck the rich, you know. But yeah, there is a very diverse cast of characters within the story as well that I really liked. So every story, as I mentioned, focuses on a different character. Some of these characters live in Banyan Court, and they're either on the wealthy side or they're on the poorer side. And some of these characters don't live in Banyan Court, but they have some relation to it. There is an estate agent that deals with a lot of the flat leases and things there. There is a janitor who works there, a security guard. And these characters come from all walks of life. We've got people of colour. There is a trans man included in the story, which I really liked how that was done as well, because there wasn't a big song and dance made about the fact that this character is trans. It mentions at one point that he wears a chest binder and that his dad had dead named him, and that's pretty much all you need to put two and two together. So I really liked that as well. But yeah, I love the differences between characters. Some of them were likable, some of them not so likable, some of them had pretty interesting stories, some of them were pretty bland, but it all worked really well, and I think it was a great representation of the kind of people that live in London, that live in these kind of places. So yeah, really liked that. But my overall favourite thing about this book was just the atmosphere, and how it was laced within the pages. You know, it was very dark and very brooding, and it always felt like there was something sinister on the next page. You know, every time I turned the page, I was expecting there to be something jump out at me, you know. And what I also really liked, actually, the writer did a very good job of kind of making you question whether what you're reading is actually happening or not. So sometimes I found myself thinking, you know, is this character having a mental breakdown, or are they actually experiencing something paranormal? You know, is this all in their head, or is there something very big happening? So I really liked that, because sometimes I wasn't quite sure what was real and what was not. And I love that. I love it when horror makes you think, and there's that aspect of uncertainty and paranoia in it. It really makes it feel more exciting, I think. I was gripped. And this book was quite slow to start with. The first couple of stories I wasn't really that interested in, but once I started delving into it a bit more, once I got to like the fourth story here, which is about a character called Anna, who is a young child, and she has an imaginary friend, I started to become really engrossed in it, because I started to realise that, yeah, actually there is something a little bit more going on here. The mystery was starting to, you know, seep out of the pages and intrigue me, and I just needed to know what was happening. And there is a scene in this book in Janek's chapter. So I think he's like, what chapter is he? I can't remember what chapter he is. Oh, it's the 11th chapter. So Janek is a plumber. There is a scene in that chapter that will just forever stay with me, because it was really fucked up, and it kind of reminded me of something that Nick Cutter would write. It was just pretty gruesome and pretty graphic, and every time I think about this book, I think about that scene instantly. It was so good, and I just love how cinematic the writing is as well. Like, you really get a good sense of the surroundings and the things that are happening or might be happening, but you're not sure. I just really enjoyed the writing and the atmosphere of this book as a whole, and I think this is a really good example of dark and brooding and spooky and everything that I love in horror. And so yeah, I just really liked how different this book is, and you know, it's a very different take on the haunted house trope, but I think it worked really well. I think the ending paid off really well. Pacing, you know, like I said, it was a little bit slow to get into, but then once it reached its momentum, it just kept that momentum up, and I actually ended up reading like the last half of this book in one night, because I was just so eager to find out what was happening. I don't really have any massive gripes with this book. There were a few typos in this book. There were a few like misspelled words and missing words, and that's just something really petty on my part. That's just a petty complaint, and it didn't take away from the story at all. While I was reading this book, actually, I did notice the person, whoever had it before me, had like underlined some of the typos and written in what it was meant to be, which I really liked. But yeah, so that's just an editing issue. But like I said, that's just a petty complaint from me. Don't let that draw you away from the story. And yeah, like I said, some of the characters weren't as interesting as some of the others, and that is why I have given this book 4.5 stars. I do think if each character had equally as interesting stories as each other, then it could have been a very solid 5 stars. I think if the beginning had been a little bit more impactful, then yeah, it would have been like the perfect horror. But still, 4.5 stars is amazing. I'm so impressed considering this is a debut novel. You know, I didn't really know what to expect going into it, but I loved it, and I highly recommend it if you want a great atmospheric horror book, if you want something that is a little bit different, if you want something, you know, that is a little like a haunted house story but with a bit more of a twist, then this is the book for you. Trust me, like, you will enjoy this. That's pretty much all I have to say on this little book. So there we go. That is my first in-depth review video done. I can breathe now because I have been a little bit nervous about this. I don't know how it is going to go down. But yeah, I really liked that book. Like I said, I'm definitely going to go and check out Jonathan Sim's horror podcast, because I'm very intrigued to see what it's like and learn a bit more about the stuff that makes him tick. But yeah, go and read that book if you haven't. Put it on your TBRs. You won't be disappointed. So, having said all of that, I am gonna leave this video here. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. As always, I am gonna go and make myself a nice cup of tea and just chill out for the rest of the night. Sorry about the mess, by the way. I've been sorting out a lot of Christmas stuff. Yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you've read this book and whether you agree with me or not, what you thought of it, or if you haven't read it yet but now you want to read it because of my review, then yeah, let me know. I always love to hear what you guys have to say. Please let me know as well if you want to see more videos like this from me. I would love to do more review videos. I think it'd be a lot of fun, and something a bit different from the normal stuff that you see on BookTube. But yeah, that's all for today, tonight, tomorrow, whenever this video goes up. Leave a cheeky thumbs up if you liked it, and please subscribe to my channel so you can see more videos from me in the future. I would really appreciate it. And yeah, I will see you all in my next video very soon. Bye, guys.